"You goddamn parasite. Get the hell out of my house." My husband's voice, a sound I once associated with safety and late-night laughter, was now a razor blade tearing through the quiet of our home. It was aimed at a woman who was clinging to his father's arm, her face a perfect mask of terrified innocence. His father, Arthur, a man whose hands had built half this town, whose voice was usually low and steady as the river, roared back, his face a thundercloud of crimson. "Don't you dare speak to her that way, Liam. Not under my roof." "Your roof? This is my house, and you're letting this whore live in it." The word hung in the air, ugly and poisoned. I stood frozen in the doorway of the kitchen, the scent of garlic and rosemary clinging to my clothes like a ghost of a happier time. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. How did we get here? How did the life I had so carefully built, a life of peaceful mornings and shared dreams, shatter into this nightmare of accusation and rage? Have you ever had a moment where you can physically pinpoint the exact second your world broke? I have. It wasn't this moment of screaming. No, that was just the aftershock. The earthquake had happened weeks before, disguised as a friendly face from the past. 6 months earlier, my life was simple, perfect, even. My name is Peyton. I'm 25, a graphic designer who works from a sun-filled corner of our new home. And for the last 5 months, I'd been married to Liam. Same age, same soul, or so I thought. We were high school sweethearts who reconnected after he spent a few years working overseas on an engineering project in Germany. 2 months after he came back, we were married. A whirlwind, yes, but when you know, or you think you do. Liam's mother had passed away from cancer over a decade ago, leaving just him, his older sister, and his father, Arthur. Arthur was 55, recently retired from his construction business, but the kind of man who couldn't sit still. He'd taken a part-time role with the town council just to keep busy. He was handsome for his age, with a quiet strength and laugh lines around his eyes that spoke of a life well lived. He'd never remarried. For more than 10 years, he'd poured everything into his children, ensuring they were settled before he even considered his own happiness. Now, with his daughter married and his son finally home and settled with me, the family was gently nudging him to find a companion, a partner for his golden years. He always waved it off with a shy smile. "I'm too old for that nonsense," he'd say. "Besides, I've been sleeping alone for a dozen years. I'm used to it." We lived on the same property. Liam had built a beautiful, modern 2-story house for us, but Arthur refused to move in. He stayed in the old, smaller guest house at the back of the lot, a single-story cottage connected to our home by a small, stone-paved yard. "This was your mother's and my first home," he told Liam, when we'd tried to convince him to take the master suite in the main house. "Too many memories here. I'm not leaving it." Liam had wanted to tear it down, to build something new and fresh for him, but Arthur was adamant. That little house, with its faded blue shutters and worn wooden porch, was a shrine to his late wife, and we had to respect that. He was a wonderful father-in-law, kind, respectful. We had our own space, our own lives. He never interfered. I'd bring him a plate of whatever I'd cooked for dinner, and he'd leave fresh vegetables from his garden on our porch in the morning. It was an easy, comfortable peace. My own mother, who had suffered under the thumb of a notoriously difficult mother-in-law, was overjoyed for me. "You've got it made, Peyton," she'd said. "No family drama, just peace and quiet. You're so lucky," and I was. For almost half a year, life was a serene, predictable rhythm, until one Tuesday afternoon, at the local farmer's market, a voice called out my name. "Peyton, Peyton Miller, is that you?" I turned. woman standing there was familiar, but changed. Sleeker, more polished than I remembered. "Chloe? Wow, is that really you?" "It's me," she laughed, a bright tinkling sound. "It's been too long. You just got back?" "Yeah, flew in last night." "God, what are you doing here? I heard you were working some fancy design job in the city." "I am. Just a freelance thing. Nothing fancy." I smiled. "You went to Japan, right? How was it?" "It was an experience. Profitable," she said, her eyes scanning me from head to toe. 5 years is a long time, huh? You look fantastic, Peyton. Younger, even. Please." I laughed, feeling a bit plain next to her designer handbag and perfect hair. "You're the one who looks like you stepped out of a magazine. I barely recognized you." I hesitated for a second. "So, are you? Are you married yet?" A shadow, brief but definite, crossed her face. "Not yet." "You?" "I am, actually. I married Liam." I saw it then. A flicker in her eyes, a tightening of her jaw. Her smile became brittle. "Liam? Our Liam. Class President Liam. The one and only," I said proudly. "We got married about 6 months ago." Her face paled. 6 months? Wow. Did you two date for a long time?" "Not really. It was fast," I admitted, feeling a strange need to explain. "Only about 2 months. He was in Germany for work, you know? He got back, we ran into each other, started talking, and, well, it just felt right. We already knew each other, right? It's not like he was a stranger." "Fast," she repeated, her voice flat. "Yeah, that's really fast." She looked away for a moment. "Funny, he never mentioned anything to me. I mean, we were in Germany together for a while." My shopping basket suddenly felt heavy in my hand. A cold prickle of surprise ran down my spine. You worked with Liam in Germany. He never told me that." "Oh yeah, same company. We even lived in the same apartment block for a bit." She forced another bright smile. "He came back about 8 months before I did. His contract was up. Then, poof, he just vanished. Fell off the face of the earth. I guess now I know why." Knowing that she wasn't just a high school classmate, but a friend who had been close to my husband recently, I felt a rush of warmth. I was being silly. "Well, we have to catch up properly. You should come over for dinner sometime," I offered. Chloe nodded, but the light in her eyes was gone. "Yeah, maybe." That evening, I couldn't wait to tell Liam. "Guess who I ran into today at the market?" "Chloe," I said, stirring the pasta sauce. He didn't look up from his laptop. The lack of interest was odd, disappointing. "She said you two worked together in Germany," I pressed. Liam's head snapped up. His eyes, usually so warm and open, were guarded, worried. "She told you that?" he asked, his voice tight. "Yeah. She said you came home 8 months before her. Is that right?" "Yeah, that's right." He closed the laptop. What else did she say?" "Nothing, really. Just that. I invited her over for dinner sometime soon." Liam's face hardened. "Why would you do that?" "What do you mean?" "She's our old classmate, Liam. And she was your friend over there. It's the polite thing to do." "I don't want her here, Peyton." "Why not? You look so uncomfortable." "What's wrong?" "She's manipulative. She's a user. I'm telling you, you don't want to get close to her. Just trust me on this, okay? For your own good." His tone was so final, so serious, that it startled me. I'd never heard him speak about anyone with such venom. "Okay," I said slowly, turning back to the stove. The aroma of the sauce now seemed cloying. "Okay, Liam, I trust you. I'll just be polite, that's all. It's better if you don't engage with her at all, he said, his voice softening slightly as he came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. I'm just trying to protect you. You understand? I leaned back against his chest, but the warmth didn't quite reach me. A seed of unease had been planted. I didn't understand. Not at all. The next day, Chloe texted me, asking me out for coffee. Remembering Liam's warning, I made an excuse. She texted again the day after, a casual, friendly message asking if I'd had lunch. I tried to be distant, but she was persistent, messaging me every day like we were the closest of friends. I found it strange, but I brushed it off as her just being lonely and trying to reconnect with people from home. Then, a few days later, I was looking for a contact on Liam's phone when I saw it. A string of missed calls in his call log from an unsaved number. Curious, I checked my own phone. It was Chloe's number, but when I looked closer at Liam's screen, I saw the small icon next to her name. He had blocked her. Why would you block someone you were just casual work colleagues with? They hadn't just been colleagues. They had been close. Close enough for him to have her number, and for something to have happened that made him block her and never, ever mention her name to me. My mind started racing. What happened in Germany? A week later, she showed up at our house, unannounced. Liam was at work. It was just me and Arthur, who was in the yard trimming his rose bushes. Chloe arrived bearing a huge fruit basket, smiling like the sun itself. Peyton, I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd just drop by. Hope you don't mind. Chloe, hi. Liam's not here. He's at work. Oh, that's fine. I came to see you. She stepped inside, her eyes immediately landing on Arthur through the window. Oh, is that your father-in-law? The one you told me about? That's him. Arthur. Wow, she breathed, her eyes wide with admiration. He looks so young and so handsome. She turned to me. You said everyone's trying to set him up, right? But he's not interested. That's right. He's pretty set in his ways. Chloe stayed for lunch. She was charming, insisted on helping me set the table. I called Arthur in to eat with us, and the whole time, I watched her. I watched the way she looked at him, her eyes lingering just a little too long. It was a flirtatious, inviting gaze that made me deeply uncomfortable. Arthur, being a generation older and a fundamentally decent man, seemed mostly oblivious, a little shy even, under the attention of a woman my age. As soon as he finished his meal, he excused himself and went back to his cottage. After I'd cleared the dishes, I came back to find Chloe slicing an apple with intense focus. Where'd your father-in-law go? She asked. You should call him back for some fruit. Oh, he's back in his house. I'll take some down to him in a bit. You go ahead and eat. No, let me, she said, jumping to her feet and arranging the apple slices on a small plate. You finish cleaning up. I'll take it down to him. I nodded. Okay, thanks, Chloe. Don't mention it. She walked out, and I watched her go, a small smile playing on her lips. She's just being nice, I told myself. Friendly. What was wrong with me? Why did my husband's words keep echoing in my head? She's manipulative. She's a user. Down in the small cottage, Arthur was sitting at his old wooden desk, looking over some papers. Chloe glided in, placing herself right beside him, her body so close, their arms brushed. She set the plate down, her fingers deliberately grazing his hand. Some apple for you, Arthur. He looked up, startled. Oh, thank you, my dear. That's very kind. Of course. She didn't move away. Instead, she let her gaze drift around the small, tidy room. It was simple, impeccably clean, filled with old photos and worn books. Your home is so peaceful, So neat. Arthur smiled, a hint of pride in his voice. Well, a retiree has plenty of time for housekeeping. You've been alone a long time, haven't you? Don't you ever think about finding someone? It was a bold question, far too personal for a near stranger. Arthur paused, his pen hovering over his papers. He seemed to consider the question seriously. Sometimes, he admitted quietly. It gets lonely sometimes. I understand, she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. I know exactly how that feels. He looked at her, surprised. You do? A young girl like you? I've been on my own since I was little, she said, her voice laced with a practiced sadness. My parents are gone. Grandparents too. It's just me. I've spent years wandering, working abroad, always coming back to an empty house. It's a very particular kind of quiet, isn't it? The lonely kind. Arthur's expression softened with sympathy. He saw a young, lonely soul. He didn't see the predator. Well, you should find a good man and settle down, he said gently. You won't be lonely anymore. Chloe pulled up a stool, sitting so close their knees were almost touching. Her voice was a low, sad murmur. I used to think that would solve everything, but I was wrong. The young ones, they're not reliable. They make promises, and then they leave. They break you. I don't think I have any faith left in men my own age. She looked up at him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Lately, I've found myself wanting someone older, someone mature, someone who won't just, is less than #0. 3 hashes greater than abandon me. You know? Arthur gave a small, awkward laugh. Well, I don't know if that's a good idea. Old men and young women, we think very differently, but older men are stable, she pressed. They're looking for something real, something long-term, not like the games young people play. That's what I want, Arthur. Something real. She leaned in, her eyes locking onto his. I'd love to meet someone. Someone like you. He was stunned, flustered. He ran a hand through his graying hair. Oh, no. I'm an old man. You're not old, she purred, her voice like velvet. You're distinguished. You're handsome. You're just a child. 25. Why would you want an old relic like me? Because, she said, her voice dropping even lower, I like you. She saw his disbelief. I know about you, Arthur. I know everything. I'm Peyton and Liam's friend. I know what a good man you are. But I'm used to being alone, he stammered, a weak protest. Are you teasing me? Turning me down so soon? No, it's not that. Then what is it? Her hand moved, resting on his chest, right over his heart. Why don't you just try loving me? What if we're perfect for each other? He was completely overwhelmed. A fish caught in a net he never saw coming. She saw him waver, saw the flicker of long-dormant desire mixed with profound confusion in his eyes, and she moved in for the kill. Her hand slid from his chest, down his torso, down to his thigh, and then higher, to the part of him that hadn't been touched by a woman in over a decade. He flinched, pushing her hand away, but she was too fast. She leaned in and pressed a soft, deliberate kiss to his cheek. I want you, she whispered. I really, really want you. His face was flushed, a deep, embarrassed red. He had lived more than half a century, and never in his life had he felt so cornered, so tempted. It was a dizzying, terrifying feeling. Before he could process it, before he could say another word, she moved again, fluid and decisive, climbing onto his lap, pressing her body against his, awakening the man he thought had died with his wife. Up in the main house, I was getting worried. An hour had passed. What on earth were they doing down there? talking for an hour. I wiped my hands on a towel and headed down to the cottage to call her back up. The door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open and stepped inside. Dad, Chloe, and then I saw them. Right there, on the worn armchair next to his desk. They were together. He was on the bottom. She was on top of him, her body moving in a slow, unmistakable rhythm. They were both completely naked, locked in an embrace that was both passionate and grotesque. I couldn't breathe. The world tilted on its axis. I made a small, strangled sound, and my hand flew to my mouth. I whispered, horrified, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." The door was open. Chloe. She didn't even seem embarrassed. She paused, looking over her shoulder at me with a cool, triumphant gaze. "It's okay, Peyton. You can go back up to the house. Arthur and I, we're not finished yet." I didn't need to be told twice. I stumbled backwards, out of the cottage, my mind a screaming void. I could hear Arthur's panicked voice from inside. Oh God, Peyton saw us. What are we going to do?" And I heard Chloe's calm, chilling reply. "Don't worry, my love, we're in love. Sooner or later, everyone was going to find out. What's there to be ashamed of?" My legs were shaking so violently I could barely stand. I stood in the yard, gasping for air, the world spinning around me. My father-in-law and Chloe, my husband's ex-something. What the hell was happening? It couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. An hour later, Chloe floated back into my kitchen, as if she'd just returned from a leisurely stroll. She poured herself a glass of water, her movements calm and unhurried, and sat down at my table. My table, in my house. I just stared at her, my mind a blank slate of shock. She took a slow sip of water and looked at me, a small, knowing smile on her face. "You must be so surprised, huh?" I found my voice, but it was a thin, reedy thing. I'm a little taken aback. I didn't realize you and Arthur were in love. She finished for me, her voice dripping with sweetness. "It happened so fast. But when it's right, you know?" She leaned forward, her expression turning earnest, pleading. "So, what do you think?" What did I think? I thought I was going to be sick. I thought my world had been ripped open and a monster had crawled inside. But what could I say? He was a lonely widower. She was a person. Who was I to judge? If you're both happy, I managed to choke out, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. If you're truly in love, then I support you. That's all that matters. Her face broke into a radiant, relieved smile. "Oh, Peyton, that's so good to hear. I really want to take care of him, you know? Just, if you could put in a good word for me with everyone, that would mean the world." "Of course," I mumbled. "I will." "Great." She stood up, her mission accomplished. "Well, I should get going. I'll be back tomorrow." "Okay. Drive safe, Chloe." Before she left, she walked back down to the cottage. I watched through the kitchen window as she gave Arthur a long, lingering kiss at his doorway. "I'm heading home now, my love," she called out, her voice loud enough for me to hear. Arthur's voice, thick with a new kind of happiness, floated back. "Okay, sweetheart, drive carefully. I'll see you tomorrow," she chirped. "Make sure you get a good night's sleep. I love you." He was a different man in the days that followed. The quiet, contemplative weight he always carried seemed to lift. He was humming as he worked in his garden. There was a lightness in his step. He looked happy, reborn, like a man half his age who had just discovered love for the first time. A part of me, the part that loved him as a father, was genuinely glad to see him so vibrant, but another, louder part of my brain was screaming. Why? Why would a beautiful, single woman of 25, with her whole life ahead of her, throw herself at a 5-year-old retiree? It made no sense. It felt wrong, predatory. I kept telling myself that in this world, anything could happen. Love was strange, but I couldn't shake the cold, hard knot of dread in my stomach. That night, tucked in bed next to Liam, I decided I had to tell him. "Honey," I began, my voice tentative. Do you know what happened today?" "What's that?" he asked, scrolling through his phone. "It's about your dad and Chloe." He stiffened, his thumb freezing on the screen. He slowly lowered the phone and looked at me. "What about them?" "They're together. They're in a relationship." The words tumbled out, and I braced myself. "I saw them, Liam. I walked in on them. They were having sex in the cottage." His face went through a rapid series of emotions: confusion, disbelief, and then a sudden, terrifying flash of pure rage. "What?" he hissed. "What did you just say?" "They're in love, Liam. That's what they said." "That's bullshit," he suddenly yelled, throwing his phone onto the nightstand with a loud crack. "You're telling me that's what you saw? Are you serious?" "Yes. Liam, I'm not making this up. I saw it with my own eyes." He shot out of bed, pacing the room like a caged animal. That can't be happening. My father, with her." He spat the word out like it was poison. "Why are you so angry? He's been alone for so long." "You don't understand," he roared, turning on me, his eyes blazing. "Anyone but her. She is a vile, disgusting person. I will not allow this." "Liam, what is it? What happened between you two? You have to tell me." He just shook his head, running his hands through his hair in frantic, angry motions. He wouldn't look at me. He wouldn't say another word. The rest of the night, he lay with his back to me, a rigid wall of silent fury. The peace in our home was shattered. Liam went down to the cottage the next day and had it out with his father. I could hear their raised voices, but couldn't make out the words. The result was a cold war. Liam refused to speak to his father. He'd walk past him in the yard without a word, his jaw set like stone. Arthur, in turn, became defensive and stubborn. He insisted Chloe's past was irrelevant. All that mattered was how she treated him now. But because Liam couldn't, or wouldn't, give him the full, ugly truth, his arguments seemed weak, selfish even. It just looked like a son trying to control his father's love life. And so, Arthur and Chloe continued to see each other, their relationship now tinged with the illicit thrill of defiance. Then, one evening, Liam came home from work to find her there. Not just visiting, she was moving in. Her suitcases were on the porch of the cottage. Chloe was standing in the yard, laughing at something Arthur had said, looking for all the world like she belonged there. Liam's control snapped. "What the hell is she doing here?" he yelled, his voice echoing across the yard. Chloe's smile vanished. She scurried behind Arthur, playing the part of the frightened victim. Arthur stepped forward, his body shielding her from his son. "Don't you talk to her like that. She's moving in with me. We'll be in the cottage, out of your way. It has nothing to do with you, nothing to do with me." Liam's voice was dangerously low. "You let that parasite into our lives, onto our property, and you think it has nothing to do with me." I ran out of the house then, trying to de-escalate, pulling Liam by the arm. "Liam, stop. Not now. Let's just go inside." Chloe was doing the same, pulling a fuming Arthur back toward the cottage. The shouting match was over, but the air was thick with a tension so heavy it felt hard to breathe. The silence that fell over our two houses was worse than the yelling. We were a family at war, I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone. that there was a piece of this puzzle I was missing. Liam's hatred for her was more than just leftover feelings from a bad breakup. It was something deeper, something uglier. A few days later, Liam had to go into the office on a Saturday. I was weeding the garden when I heard voices coming from the cottage. Sharp, angry voices. It was Liam and Chloe. He must have come home. I crept closer, hiding behind the large oak tree that separated our lawns, and I listened. "And you think I'm just going to let you get away with this?" Liam was snarling. "Get away with what, Liam?" Chloe's voice was a mocking taunt. "Falling in love. Your father is a wonderful man. He knows how to treat a woman. Don't you dare talk about him. Why are you here, Chloe? What's your real game?" "Game?" She laughed, a sound completely devoid of humor. "There's no game. I came back for you, but you were already married. So, I had to improvise. I decided I wanted to stay in the family. What better way than to become your new mommy? Isn't it perfect? Now we can be together forever. You'll have to see me every single day. You are the most shameless creature I have ever met." He breathed, his voice filled with a mixture of rage and disbelief. "Oh, please," she scoffed. "Don't you remember all those nights in Germany? The way you used to hold me? You loved this shameless creature then, didn't you? Do you really not understand why I left you?" he asked, his voice dangerously quiet. "Or did you just block it out? If you've forgotten, let me remind you. When I met you, you were selling your body on the streets of Berlin. I felt sorry for you. I thought you were a victim. I got you out. I found you a job at my company. I gave you a place to live. We fell in love. Or at least, I did. I was working my ass off, saving money for our future. And you never changed. You were still selling yourself in the goddamn company bathroom for €50 a pop. Do you remember that, Chloe? My friend sent me the video. A video of a line of men, old men, young men, waiting outside the stalls, waiting their turn. For you. It was disgusting. My hand flew to my mouth to stifle a gasp. The world swam before my eyes. "A prostitute," he had said. Chloe's voice was suddenly small, defensive. "I did that for you. I wanted you to have less stress, to not have to work so hard. I gave you all the money. I said I was sorry. Why couldn't you forgive me?" "Forgive you," he yelled. "I didn't need your filthy money. There are ways to do that job with some class, some dignity, choosing your clients. But you would spread your legs for anyone, anywhere. You have no self-respect. You are broken, Chloe, and I want you to get the hell away from my father. Stay out of his life." Just then, I heard Arthur's car pull up. He had come home for lunch. He walked into the yard and saw them, faces contorted in anger. "What's going on here?" he demanded. Instantly, Chloe's entire demeanor changed. Her face crumpled, tears welling in her eyes as she ran to him. "Arthur!" He was yelling at me. He was threatening me. Arthur's face darkened as he looked at his son. "What is wrong with you, Liam? Why are you doing this?" Liam's face was a mask of utter despair. He looked completely defeated. He had been pushed to his absolute limit. "That's it," he said, his voice hollow. "You have to choose, Dad. Right now. It's either me, your son, or it's her." There was a long, terrible silence. The three of them stood frozen in the middle of the yard. Arthur looked from his son's tormented face to the tear-streaked, pleading face of the woman clinging to his arm. Then, without a word, he turned. He put his arm protectively around Chloe's shoulders and guided her toward the cottage, leaving Liam standing alone in the yard. That was his answer. He had made his choice, and in that moment, my husband's heart broke. I watched it happen from behind the tree, and a piece of my own heart broke right along with it. From that day forward, our home became a battleground, divided by an invisible, suffocating wall. Liam and his father ceased to exist to one another. They were ghosts in the same space, moving through the yard and the driveway without a glance, their faces set in masks of stone. My husband, the man whose easy laugh used to fill every room, was now a specter of silent rage. He had lost his father, and the grief was eating him alive. Chloe, on the other hand, thrived in the poisoned air. She was victorious. She spent her days doing absolutely nothing, lounging in the cottage, treating Arthur not as a partner, but as a doting servant, and she took a perverse pleasure in stoking the flames. Whenever Liam was within earshot, she would find a way to needle him, to create a fresh conflict, to drive the wedge between father and son even deeper. I'd watch her from the window, a triumphant little smirk on her face every time she managed to make them yell at each other. She was enjoying her revenge, and she was making sure Liam's life was a living hell. I started to watch her, really watch her. I knew the story Liam had told me, but I needed to understand it for myself. I became an unwilling detective in my own home. And then, one afternoon, I got my proof. I was watering the plants on our back deck when I heard their voices, Liam and Chloe, arguing down by the cottage again. "You just can't stand to see me happy, can you?" Chloe's voice was a high-pitched whine, designed for Arthur's benefit as he worked in the garden nearby. "Happy?" Liam's voice was low, seething. "This isn't about happiness. This is a performance, and it's going to end. The only thing that's ended is your chance with me," she shot back, her voice dropping so only he and I could hear. "You threw me away. Now you get to watch your father give me everything you wouldn't. You'll have to call me Mom." "How does that taste, Liam?" The raw venom in her voice confirmed everything. This wasn't love. This was a long, slow, torturous act of vengeance, and we were all her prisoners. A few days of this cold, simmering silence passed, and I knew I couldn't stay quiet any longer. I couldn't be a spectator to the demolition of my own family. The final straw came when I walked into my kitchen and found her brazenly raiding our refrigerator. Our refrigerator. Arthur had his own in the cottage. "What are you looking for?" I asked, my voice tight. She turned, holding a carton of orange juice, completely unfazed. "Just seeing if you guys had anything good to eat. Nothing down at the cottage. There's a grocery store a mile down the road, Chloe." "Oh, don't be so difficult, Peyton," she sighed, rolling her eyes. "We're all one big happy family now, aren't we?" "No," I said, the word coming out sharp and cold. "We are not. And for the record, this is my house. You're not welcome to just come in and help yourself." Her face hardened, the sweet mask dropping for a second. "Once Arthur and I get married, I'll be your stepmother. This house will be just as much mine as it is yours. Get used to it." "That day will never come," I snapped. I felt a surge of adrenaline, of long-suppressed anger. "You need to stop this pathetic little fantasy. You're not fooling anyone. We all know you're only here to get back at Liam." Did it scare her to know that her secret was out, that I knew what game she was playing? "So what if I do?" she sneered, her eyes glittering with malice. "What does it feel like, Peyton, knowing that your husband and I were lovers? And now, here I am, living right under your nose, about to become his mother. Don't you think that's delicious?" "I think it's pathetic," I shot back, my voice shaking with rage. "I think you're debasing yourself, but I guess that's not new for you, is it? As for your history with my husband, that's all it is. History. The past. You're like a carton of milk that's gone sour. You might still be in the fridge, but you're expired." and expired things eventually get thrown in the trash. Her face contorted with fury. She was speechless. For the first time, I had gotten under her skin. She slammed the refrigerator door shut and stormed out of my kitchen, back to her little cottage and her aging prize. I stood there, trembling, my heart pounding in my chest. I had to stay calm. I couldn't let her drag me down to her level. But a war had been declared. That night, the dam of secrets finally broke. Liam could see the storm in my eyes, the tension in my shoulders. He knew I'd confronted her. "Peyton," he said softly, sitting on the edge of the bed. "I need to tell you everything." "I know," I whispered. "I think I already know most of it. But you don't know why," he said, his voice thick with shame. "You don't know how bad it was." And so he told me. He filled in the horrifying details of the story I had only overheard in pieces. He described finding her, a lost, broken girl in a foreign city. He talked about falling for the person he thought she could be, the person he tried to save. And then he described the moment of discovery, the video, the betrayal, the soul-crushing realization that the woman he loved was pathologically self-destructive. "She's sick, Peyton," he said, his eyes filled with a deep, weary sadness. "She thrives on chaos. She wanted to help me," she said. "But it wasn't about the money. It was about the degradation. She's addicted to it." He sighed, a heavy, ragged sound. "And now, she's going to marry my father, just to punish me." "Then we have to stop it," I said, a new resolve hardening inside me. "We can't let this happen." "How?" "He won't listen. He's so desperate for a second chance at happiness that he's walking into a bear trap with his eyes wide open." He looked at me, his own eyes full of despair. "So, get ready to start calling her Mom." "Don't say that," I whispered, wrapping my arms around him. "I'm sorry," he murmured into my hair. "I am so sorry I dragged you into this mess. It's not your fault. Old flames have a way of burning you, don't they?" he said with a bitter laugh. "She's not a flame, Liam," I said, pulling back to look him in the eyes. "She's an arsonist, and we can't let her burn this family to the ground." But Arthur was already pouring gasoline on the fire. He was completely under her spell. His pension, his savings, the money he had carefully put away for his entire life, it was all becoming hers. He withdrew thousands to buy her jewelry, designer clothes, anything her heart desired. A man who had lived his whole life with quiet frugality was now hemorrhaging money for his young lover. Love, whether you're 18 or 55, can make you a fool. Chloe grew more audacious by the day. She treated our home like her personal resort. She'd walk around the yard in tiny, translucent nightgowns, making sure to parade past the windows where she knew Liam was. One morning, he was outside doing his usual workout routine. Chloe emerged from the cottage, dressed in a flimsy pink negligee. No bra, leaving nothing to the imagination. She sashayed over to him, her voice a sickly sweet purr. "Morning, honey. You're up early." Liam didn't even look at her, just kept lifting his weights. She wasn't deterred. "You're still in such great shape," she cooed, letting her eyes roam over his body. "Just like I remember." He finally stopped, his knuckles white as he gripped the barbell. "Shut up, Chloe." "Ooh, feisty," she giggled. "You were always so passionate. Remember those nights? We could go all night long." I said, "Shut your mouth," he growled, his voice a low warning. It was at that exact moment that Arthur walked out of the cottage. He saw Liam standing over Chloe, his face a mask of rage. He saw her flinch away as if she'd been struck. "Liam, what do you think you're doing?" he roared. Liam's hand, which had been raised in a gesture of pure frustration, dropped to his side. He just stared at his father, a look of utter contempt on his face, before turning and walking back into our house. Chloe immediately ran to Arthur, burying her face in his chest. He was mad that I was talking to you. He told me to get out of your life, and when I said no, he was going to hit me. It was a masterful lie, and Arthur, blinded by his infatuation, believed every word. His anger towards his own son solidified into something hard and unforgiving. A week later, he called a family meeting. Liam's uncles, his aunt, all gathered in our living room. Liam refused to come downstairs. He stayed in our bedroom, the closed door a symbol of his complete surrender. I sat there alone, a silent daughter-in-law, as Arthur made his grand announcement. He was getting married. Next month, there was a stunned silence. His family looked at Chloe, this beautiful young woman who was 30 years his junior, and then back at him. They were shocked, but Arthur was resolute. He asked them to help him pick a date, to plan the ceremony. When his younger brother asked where Liam was, Arthur's face clouded over. That ungrateful boy. Forget about him. This is my life. I've sacrificed enough for my children. Now it's my turn to be happy. They didn't understand the darkness behind the situation, so they eventually, reluctantly, offered their support. They just wanted to see their brother happy again. I sat there, listening to them plan the wedding of my father-in-law to my husband's vindictive ex-lover, and felt like I was in a surreal nightmare. The next day, I was cleaning the house, trying to scrub away the feeling of filth that had settled over our lives. When Chloe walked in, she lounged on my sofa, watching me work. "This is a nice house," she said casually. "Spacious." I ignored her. "I was thinking," she continued, examining her nails. "After Arthur and I are married, we'll move up here. It makes more sense. Father and son living together, and we can sell that old cottage. No point in keeping it around." That was it. The final, unbearable provocation. The cottage was the last piece of Liam's mother that existed on this property. It was a sacred space, and this creature was going to sell it for pocket money. Something inside me snapped. I dropped the vacuum cleaner. Have you ever been so angry that the world turns red? So consumed by rage that you lose control of your own body? "You shameless bitch," I whispered. Then I lunged at her. I grabbed her by the hair, pulling her off my sofa, and I slapped her, hard, across the face. Once, twice. The sound echoed in the quiet room. "You garbage. You piece of absolute trash. I'll kill you," I screamed, my voice raw and unrecognizable. She shrieked and scrambled away, running out into the yard. I wasn't done. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find, a straw broom, and ran after her. I threw it, and it hit her squarely in the back, sending her tumbling to the ground. She got up, sobbing, and ran for the front gate. I grabbed the broom again and chased her down the driveway, hitting her again and again as she ran screaming down the street. Neighbors came out of their houses, staring in horror. A few of them ran over and pulled me off of her, holding me back as she scrambled away, a pathetic, weeping mess. In that moment, I didn't care. I wanted her gone. I wanted her to hurt as much as she had hurt us, but the consequences were immediate. The story spread through our small town like wildfire. Liam and Peyton, the selfish, cruel children, were trying to stop their poor, lonely father from finding happiness. They were jealous. They were possessive. And I, the daughter-in-law, had brutally attacked his sweet, innocent fiancé in broad daylight. We became pariahs. The looks, the whispers, they followed us everywhere. At the grocery store, the cashier, a woman who had known me my whole life, looked at me with pity and disdain. "You know, Peyton," she said, not meeting my eye as she bagged my groceries, Your mother-in-law has been gone a long, long time. Your father-in-law deserves a little bit of comfort in his old age. You and Liam should be happy for him. It's complicated, I mumbled, my face burning with shame. You don't understand the whole story. What's to understand? She said, her voice laced with judgment. He's in love. That girl seems to truly love him. She moved in to take care of him. What's so complicated about that? You kids need to let him be. I snatched my bags and fled, tears blurring my vision. It was useless to explain. We were the villains in this story now. Chloe had won. She had not only turned our family inside out, but she had turned our entire world against us. The battle was lost, but the war was far from over. I had lost the moral high ground in the eyes of the world, but I had gained something far more valuable: clarity. There would be no more screaming matches, no more public brawls. From now on, the fight would be silent, strategic, and waged from within. When I came home from my humiliating trip to the grocery store, I found Chloe's next move already in progress. She was directing Arthur as he carried her belongings, box by box, from the cottage up to the spare bedroom on our first floor, the one right next to the living room. I just can't bear that dusty old cottage anymore, darling. I heard her coo to him. And besides, we're a family. We should all be under one roof, don't you think? That night, the four of us existed in a state of surreal tension. Liam came home from work and saw their things: Chloe's garish lamp, Arthur's worn reading chair, in the downstairs living area. He froze, his face a thundercloud, but he didn't say a word. He just turned and walked upstairs. Later, Arthur and Chloe were sitting on the sofa watching television. Liam came down to get a glass of water. Chloe, ever the instigator, smiled sweetly at him. "Liam, you're home. Come, sit with us." He ignored her, walking straight to the kitchen. His deliberate silence was a bigger insult than any shout. Arthur slammed his hand down on the coffee table, making the remote jump. "What is with that attitude? Your mother is speaking to you. Have you lost all your manners?" Liam stopped dead in the kitchen doorway. He turned slowly, a humorless, chilling smile twisting his lips. "My mother?" he repeated, the words dripping with ice. "Which mother would that be? I only have one. Her name was Helen. She passed away. I'm not aware of any other mother named Chloe." "You insolent brat," Arthur roared, surging to his feet. Chloe quickly jumped up, placing a placating hand on Arthur's chest. "Darling, please, don't be angry. Liam is right. We aren't married yet. The title can wait. It's okay." She played the part of the gracious peacemaker perfectly, which only made Arthur more furious at his son. "You see that?" he bellowed, pointing a shaking finger at Liam. "She defends you, and look at your face. The contempt. I can't stand to look at you. I can't believe a son of mine could be so disrespectful." "Oh, I think you'll be seeing a lot worse than that," Liam said quietly, his eyes promising a reckoning. "You just wait." I heard the commotion from upstairs and rushed down, pulling Liam away before the fight could escalate into something physical. "Come on," I hissed, tugging his arm. "It's not worth it. Let's go." As we walked up the stairs, Liam turned back to look at them, now settled back on the sofa in our living room. He asked the question that was burning in my own mind. "Why are you two even up here? What happened to the cottage?" Chloe answered, her voice light and breezy. "Oh, that old thing. It's just not necessary anymore, is it? We're going to sell it." "Sell it?" Liam's voice was dangerously low. "You're going to sell it. Dad, you told me you would never, ever sell that house. You said it was Mom's memory. You said you'd live there until the day you died." Arthur wouldn't meet his son's eyes. "Well, things change. I'm starting a new life now, with Chloe. We need the money." "The money," Liam repeated, a bitter, broken laugh escaping his lips. My God, your pension isn't enough for her. All your savings aren't enough. You have to sell Mom's house to keep your new toy happy. He shook his head in disgust. You know what? Fine. You deserve each other. He turned and followed me upstairs. In the sanctuary of our bedroom, Liam's rage finally crumbled into despair. He punched the wall, a muffled thud of pain and frustration, and then sank onto the bed, his head in his hands. He's selling her house, Peyton, for a whore he met a few weeks ago. I sat beside him, my mind racing, a new, cold strategy beginning to form. We had been fighting fire with fire, and it was only making the blaze bigger. What if we tried a different tactic? What if we stopped pushing back? Liam, I said softly, what if we let him? He looked up, his eyes bloodshot and confused. What are you talking about? What if we agree with him? What if we support this wedding? What if we welcome her into the family? Are you insane? No, I'm thinking, I said, the plan crystallizing in my mind. Look, a person like Chloe, a user, a manipulator, she thrives on conflict. We're giving her exactly what she wants, a fight. It makes her the victim, it makes Arthur her protector, and it drives them closer together. But what if the fight just stopped? I leaned in, my voice urgent. What if we become the perfect, supportive children? What would she do then? Her entire plan is to get his money and run. She has no intention of actually marrying him. If we push the wedding forward, if we help plan it, if we act like we can't wait for her to be our new mom, she'll panic. A con artist's greatest fear is having their bluff called. He stared at me, a flicker of understanding, and then hope dawning in his tired eyes. You think she'll bolt? I think she'll have to. If she doesn't get a big cash payout before the wedding, she's got no reason to stick around for the actual marriage. So, the house. We have to control the sale of the house. That's her exit strategy. It was a risky, desperate plan, but it was the only one we had. The next morning, the shift was immediate and profound. Liam came downstairs before work and, for the first time in weeks, spoke directly to his father. Good morning, Dad. Arthur, who was reading the newspaper at the kitchen table, looked up in stunned silence. I followed Liam's lead. I came down with a bright smile, setting a plate of pancakes on the table. I made breakfast for everyone. Dad, Chloe, please, eat. Chloe looked at us, her eyes narrowed with suspicion. She couldn't figure out our angle. The happier and more accommodating we were, the more uneasy she became. That evening, I broached the subject of the wedding. So, Dad, have you and Chloe set a firm date yet? I asked cheerfully as we all sat in the living room. The 18th of next month, right? We should start sending out invitations. Well, yes, that's the day, Arthur said, looking at Liam for a reaction. Liam just nodded, a calm, placid expression on his face. Whatever makes you happy, Dad. It's your life. We support you. Arthur was floored. A slow, grateful smile spread across his face. Thank you, son. That means a lot. I glanced at Chloe. Her smile was tight, forced. Her eyes darted between me and Liam. She was trapped. A few days later, while sipping coffee in a local cafe, Chloe confessed her anxieties to one of the few old friends she had reconnected with. I don't get it, Amber, she vented, stirring her latte so hard it nearly slopped over the side. For weeks, Liam was a monster. He hated me. He wanted me gone. Now, all of a sudden, he and Peyton are planning the wedding. They're being so nice. It's freaking me out. Maybe he just gave up, Amber suggested with a shrug. He saw he couldn't win, so he surrendered. Maybe, Chloe mused, but she didn't sound convinced. It just doesn't feel right. Something's off. It was more fun when they were fighting. Now the whole thing feels real. Well, you need to speed things up, Amber said, leaning in. Has the old man sold the house yet? That's your ticket out of here, right? He's trying, Chloe hissed in frustration. He has a few offers, but only for around 1 million. He thinks it's worth more. He's holding out. Well, you need to convince him to sell. Fast. Before you end up actually walking down the aisle with that geezer. I know, I'm working on it, she snapped. Back at the house, Chloe redoubled her efforts, constantly nagging Arthur about selling the cottage. Darling, we need the money for the honeymoon, she'd purr, wrapping her arms around his neck. And I need a new wardrobe for our new life together. $1 million is plenty. Just sell it. But Arthur, with his lifetime of construction experience, knew the property was worth more. It's a lowball offer, sweetheart. If we just wait a little longer, I know we can get at least 1.5. This was our chance. That evening, Liam made a phone call. The next day, a well-dressed man, an old college friend of Liam's named Mark, who worked in real estate, came to look at the cottage. He walked to the property, made all the right noises, and then sat down with Arthur and Chloe. It's a beautiful property, Arthur, he said gravely. Lots of potential. I have a client, an investor from out of the country, who would be very interested. I think I can get you $2 million for it. Arthur and Chloe's eyes widened in unison. $2 million, but, Mark added, holding up a hand, my client is tied up in a deal overseas. He can't sign any paperwork or transfer any funds for at least a month, maybe a little longer. Chloe's face fell. A month? The wedding was on the 18th. A month was too late. Her plan, her beautiful, simple plan to grab the cash and vanish the week before the ceremony, was crumbling before her very eyes. A month, she said, her voice strained. That's too long. We need the money now. Arthur looked at her, a flicker of confusion in his eyes. Sweetheart, what's the rush? For an extra $1 million, we can wait a month. It's a huge difference, but my wedding dress, the honeymoon. I wanted to go to Japan, she sputtered, grasping at straws. We have enough for a dress, and we can take the honeymoon later, Arthur said reasonably. It would be foolish to turn down $2 million. Liam and I, who had been casually listening from the kitchen, chimed in. Dad's right, Chloe, Liam said, his voice the epitome of helpfulness. $2 million is a fantastic price. You can't pass that up just to rush things. We can wait. Chloe looked from face to face, at Arthur's resolute expression, at Liam and me with our placid, supportive smiles. She was cornered. There was no way to convince Arthur to take the lower offer now. The fast cash she was counting on had evaporated. She stormed off to her room and slammed the door. Later that day, she packed a bag and announced she was going to visit her family for a couple of days, claiming she was upset that no one was listening to her. But we knew the truth. She was panicking. Her scheme was falling apart, but we also knew she wouldn't give up that easily. She would be back, and when she returned, she would be even more desperate, and we would be ready for her. While she was gone, Liam and I did a little redecorating. We installed a tiny, nearly invisible security camera in our bedroom. The final act of this play was about to begin, and we were going to make sure we had it all on tape. 2 days later, Chloe returned, her brief exile having done nothing to solve her central problem. Arthur hadn't called, hadn't begged her to come back, hadn't miraculously decided to sell the house for half its value. He'd simply gone up to his family's old country plot with Liam to help with some preparations for an upcoming family reunion, leaving her completely out of the loop. Her leverage was slipping. She walked back into the house with a thunderous expression, which immediately transformed into a mask of wounded fragility the moment she saw Arthur. "You didn't even call me," she whimpered, her lower lip trembling. "You went away and didn't even tell me." "I did tell you, sweetheart," Arthur said patiently. "I mentioned I had to go up to the country place this weekend. You must not have been listening." He was starting to see the cracks in her perfect facade. Her desperation was escalating. She needed a new plan. If she couldn't get the big payday from the house, she would have to pivot. She would try to extract what she could in smaller amounts, and she would try to destroy Liam in a more personal, intimate way. The game had changed. Now, it was about pure, sadistic pleasure. Liam, sensing this shift, decided to take a few days off work. He told me it was to help his dad, but I knew the real reason. He was laying a trap. He stayed home, a constant, tempting presence. And Chloe, whose pathological need for male validation was her greatest weakness, couldn't resist the bait. The next morning, Arthur left for his council meeting. Liam was outside, washing the patio with a power washer. It was a warm day, and he'd taken his shirt off. I watched from the kitchen window as Chloe emerged from the house, a predator drawn to a kill. She stood on the steps, her eyes devouring him. "You're not going to work today, handsome," she purred. Liam didn't turn around. "Got the day off?" "Oh, come on, don't be like that," she whined. "There's no one home. We can be friends, can't we?" He finally turned, his eyes cold and hard. "You're about to be my stepmother. Start acting like it." "Oh, I'm just looking out for you," she said, a wicked glint in her eye. "But you should be careful. Your father finds out we're talking. You know how he gets." Liam just shook his head and went back to his work. He was a perfect picture of masculine strength, his muscles taut, water glistening on his back. Chloe watched him, her breath hitching. I could almost hear her thoughts. She compared this vibrant, powerful man to the aging, gentle one she was saddled with, and the contrast was agonizing for her. "This is what I could have had," her hungry eyes seemed to say. "This is what he took from me." She spent the rest of the morning trying to get his attention, parading around in revealing outfits, but he ignored her completely. This only fueled her obsession. After lunch, Arthur went back to the council office for the afternoon session. Liam went upstairs to our bedroom to take a nap. This was the moment she'd been waiting for. She crept up the stairs and silently pushed open our bedroom door, which Liam had purposefully left ajar. He was asleep on his stomach, the sheet only covering his legs. His bare back was an open invitation. She glided to the bedside, her movements slow and deliberate. She reached out a trembling hand and traced a finger down his spine. He didn't move. Emboldened, she leaned down, her lips brushing against his skin, planting a soft kiss on the small of his back. Liam's eyes snapped open. He rolled over, sitting up in one fluid motion. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he hissed, his voice low and dangerous. She wasn't deterred. The rejection only excited her more. She lunged at him, trying to wrap her arms around his neck. "Oh, Liam, I've missed you so much. I need you. Please, just one more time." He pushed her away, and she stumbled back, landing on the floor. She looked up at him, her face a mask of theatrical heartbreak. "You fool," she sobbed. "It's right here for you, and you're too stupid to take it." She didn't know, of course, that the little black eye of the camera, disguised as a smoke detector on the ceiling, had recorded every single second. The next day, he did it again. He stayed home. He spent the morning doing household repairs. Again, shirtless. He was deliberately tormenting her, flaunting the body she craved and could never have. She followed him around like a lost puppy, her eyes full of a desperate, pathetic hunger. "You're so skilled," she said, watching him fix a loose cabinet hinge. "You can fix anything, can't you? Most things," he said, not looking at her. She moved closer, her voice dropping to a seductive whisper. "Can you fix a person? Someone who's broken?" She placed a hand on his arm. "I'm aching all over, Liam. Maybe you can help me." He pulled his arm away as if he'd been burned. "That's enough, Chloe. Go find my father. He's the one you're supposed to be in love with, remember?" "But he's old," she blurted out, the frustration finally boiling over. "He's weak. He can't give me what I need, what you used to give me." She looked him up and down, her gaze desperate. "I'm a woman, Liam. I have needs." "Then go find a man your own age," he said, his voice flat. "My father can't satisfy you." "I have you, don't I?" she whispered, a hopeful, manic gleam in her eyes. "No," he said, turning his back on her and walking away. "You don't." He went up to our room and lay down on the chaise lounge, pretending to read. She followed him, a predator who couldn't accept that her prey was no longer afraid of her. She stood before him, blocking his light. When he didn't look up, she leaned down, her face inches from his, intending to kiss him. He was ready for her. As she moved in, he lifted his foot and shoved her, sending her sprawling onto her back on the floor. "Ow!" she cried out, genuine tears of frustration and humiliation welling in her eyes. "Why are you so cruel to me? I love you. I've always loved you." "You're a liar," he said, finally looking at her with nothing but cold pity. "And you're about to be my mother. Don't you have any shame?" That was the final trigger. Her mind, already unstable, finally snapped. All the rage, all the rejection, all the failure of her pathetic little plan came pouring out in a torrent of pure, undiluted truth. "Marry him?" she shrieked, scrambling to her feet, her face contorted with hate. "Are you insane? Why would I ever marry that old man? He's older than my own father. I'm young. I'm beautiful. Do you really think I would chain myself to a fossil like that?" "No, it was always about the money. I was going to take his money and disappear. I'd have to be a complete idiot to marry him. A pathetic, stupid." Her voice trailed off. Her eyes widened in horror. She had turned, just for a second, and had seen them, standing in the doorway, their faces pale with shock, were me and Arthur. We just got home," Arthur said, his voice a dead, hollow whisper. Chloe's face went white. She stumbled back, her hand flying to her mouth. "Arthur," she stammered, her mind racing to fabricate a new lie. "Arthur, darling, Liam and I. We were just joking. We were playing a game. It's not what it looks like." "Enough," Arthur said, his voice shaking with a quiet, terrible rage. He held up his hand. "Don't you dare lie to me again. Not one more time." He looked from her to the ceiling, where the tiny camera was blinking its discreet red light. The camera. We saw the footage from yesterday, and now I've heard it with my own ears. He finally looked at her, and the love and adoration that had once been in his eyes were replaced with a profound, soul-deep disgust. "You are a child, a cruel, manipulative, greedy child." She tried to run to him, to touch him, to work her magic one last time. "No, baby, please. You have to believe me. I love you." He recoiled from her touch. "Get out." She turned to me, her eyes pleading. "Peyton, help me. Tell him it's a misunderstanding. I love him. I really do." I just shook my head, stepping away from her. "It's over, Chloe. There are no more lies to tell." The fight went out of her. She knew she was beaten. Her shoulders slumped in defeat. Without another word, she walked to her room, threw her expensive, newly bought clothes into her suitcases, and left. She didn't even say goodbye. After she was gone, a heavy, exhausted silence filled the house. Arthur sank onto the edge of our bed, the same bed where his son had been sexually harassed by the woman he loved just minutes before, and he looked at Liam. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice cracking. "I am so sorry. I let her fool me. I almost destroyed our family because of her. I was so stupid." Liam walked over and put a hand on his father's shoulder. "It's over now, Dad. That's all that matters. It's over." Arthur looked up, his eyes swimming with tears of shame and gratitude. Thank you both, for saving me from myself." He looked around the room, at the life he had almost thrown away. Then he asked, his voice full of worry, "What about the house, the cottage?" "I told that man, your friend, that I'd sell it to him." Liam smiled, a genuine, relieved smile for the first time in months. "Don't worry about Mark, Dad. He's my friend. The $2 million offer, that was just part of the plan. Your house is safe." The full weight of our deception, a deception born of love and desperation, settled on Arthur. He finally understood everything we had done to protect him. He buried his face in his hands and wept. A year later, our house is a home again. The ghosts have been exorcised. Arthur, after a lot of soul searching and a few months of therapy, is himself again, only wiser, more cautious. He eventually started dating a woman his own age this time, a kind, gentle widow from the next town over, introduced to him by his brother. They are good for each other. They spend their evenings sitting on the porch of the cottage, his cottage, which will never be for sale, and they look after our son, their grandson, while Liam and I are at work. As for Chloe, her friend Amber told me she went back to Japan. She said life in America wasn't working out for her. She went back to the only life she knew, the one that required no effort and no soul, the one that would eventually consume her completely. Sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet and my son is asleep in my arms, I think about her. I wonder where she is, who she's destroying now, and I feel a chill, because I know that evil like that doesn't just disappear. It just moves on to the next house, the next family, the next life to shatter. But it won't be ours. Not anymore. We fought the monster in our home, and we won.